Essential Self-Care Podcast, a podcast for those of us who are, let's face it, too busy for self-care. In this podcast, you will hear real life stories from people who leaned into their self-care as they were navigating life's storms. You'll learn practical tips, tools, and strategies to incorporate self-care into your own busy life as well. You'll hear from expert guests sharing their expertise on specific tools and modalities of self-care to optimize your well-being in your life, career, and relationships. I'm your host, Dr. Sheetal Ajmani. I am a physician, best-selling author, and founder of Radiant Living Institute, where I guide high-achieving women to get unstuck and learn to live radiantly again through major life transitions. This show is sponsored by Reclaim Your Radiance, Radiant Living Institute's signature coaching program designed to help you reclaim your worth, renew your energy, and restore your happiness in your life, career, and relationships. This program has already helped countless women navigate major life changes, from identifying that they were in toxic marriages and finding their way out, to finding their dream job, and to rediscovering their sense of inner joy, happiness, peace, and calm that resides within them all the time. So to get started, head over to radiantlivinginstitute.com. Quick disclaimer before we dive into the episode. Please know that this podcast is for educational purposes only and is not medical advice. Always seek the advice of your own health practitioner or mental health provider for your specific situation. Now, let's get started. Hello, and welcome to another solocast episode of the Essential Self-Care Podcast. I am so excited today to share with you my New Year's visioning process. It's a process that I do every year. I've been doing it for the past 3 or 4 years now, since I created it. And it's a really powerful process that I know there's so many New Year's processes out there, like visioning processes, goal setting processes. But honestly, this method is something that I have not seen anywhere else. I created it out of my own need a few years ago, because I had done a lot of other sort of visioning processes, goal setting processes from a lot of other, even really well-known thought leaders in the personal development space. And I found something lacking, and I realized that I needed something a little bit different. And so I created this process that I'm going to share with you today. I'm going to give you all the details today, and then I'll also share with you where you can dive deeper into it and actually get your own workbook and workshop where I guide you through it step by step. But I'm going to give you an overview of the entire process today, and we'll go from there. So again, I have not seen any other process like this before, and that's why I'm so excited to share this with you. Because here's the thing, and here is the difference. I'm going to just give it to you right up front here. Here's the difference between this process and any other process. All of these other processes are about the specific goals that you are setting, the vision that you have for your life or your upcoming year. And this process specifically is more about who you become than what you do. So yes, you are going to set goals. Yes, you are going to take a look at and daydream and vision what you want your life to look like the upcoming year. And you're going to take it a step further to say, okay, why do I have these goals? Why do I want to achieve these things? Why do I want my life to look this way? And ultimately, who do I want to become through the process? Why is this important? Why did I create this process in this way? And why do I think it's so important that I'm sharing it with you today? Here's why. A few years ago, I did a visioning process. Like I said, well-known personal development thought leader walked through that process that they outlined and created this incredibly detailed vision. It was all about what I wanted the externals in my life to look like, the external situations, what I wanted my job to look like, what I wanted my relationship to look like, where I wanted to live, like all of those sort of things, right? And let me tell you, that year went completely the opposite. like everything that I had written in that vision, the complete opposite happened. My relationship changed in a really big way. My job changed in a really big way. I moved to a new city that was definitely not in my vision. Like all of these things happened completely opposite to what I had outlined. And I was devastated. I was absolutely devastated. And I was resentful at my visioning process. I was resentful of all of these personal development strategies and tactics. And I realized I needed something different. And one thing held true that year is that I had created a word of the year. And that word of the year was align. And so, what I came to realize at the end of that year, even though I was so devastated that all of these sort of externals of how I thought my life was going to look that year, not only did not happen, but the complete opposite happened. But what I realized is that that word of the year held true. That all of those things happened because that was all part of my alignment. All of that had to happen because all of those external things that I was seeking actually were not in alignment of my highest purpose for my highest good of what I actually needed in my life. And so, although none of that vision came to fruition at that time or during that year, that word of the year, that sort of guiding force of what I was seeking to cultivate did hold true. It just didn't look the way I thought it would, right? But that word of the year and this word of the year that is part of my current New Year's process that I'm going to share with you. It's a big part of it. And this is why actually, because I continually, throughout all the difficulties, throughout all the challenges that year, I continually brought my focus and my attention and my awareness to the fact that my life was coming into alignment, that I was aligning. And yes, it felt hard. Yes, it didn't look the way I expected it to or wanted it to, but it was coming into alignment, right? And so through that whole process and through really that experience and taking a lot of the lessons that I learned through that, I put together this process that I'm about to share with you today. Because the thing is, I didn't want to just throw this completely out the window, like of doing some sort of process around the new year, because I felt like it's something I still needed to move forward in the next upcoming year with greater intention. And so the reason I'm bringing it up now, yes, obviously we are, towards the end of the year. The new year is coming upon us very quickly. Also, my birthday is at this time of year. So as of me recording this episode, my birthday is just a couple weeks away. And then New Year's is going to be just a couple weeks after that. So this is a time of year that I always take to go through this process, to reflect on my past year and to think about what I want my upcoming year to look like. And so where do we start? I always start with what I call your past year review. So taking a look back at the past year, and specifically taking a look at things like what went well. So often we think about all that we did not accomplish or all that we did not get around to doing. But what about taking a moment to focus on and to notice and to recognize what did go well over this past year and jotting that down? Asking yourself questions like, what can I feel proud of myself for from this past year? In what ways did I step into my strength? What things made me feel empowered over the past year, right? What were some of these sort of magic moments throughout the year that just made me feel so joyful and just filled my heart up, right? Asking yourself those questions. And really, the point of this part of the process is to, yes, reflect on the past year and to build up that positive momentum as you continue to look into and create your vision for the next year, for the upcoming year, right? So we take some time to really build up that momentum, ask yourself those questions. Again, you can get access to my workbook. I'll include the notes in the show notes below as well. So you can get access to that and just be guided through my annual New Year's workshop and workbook. where I can help guide you through that every step of the way. But then the next step, we move into actually planning for your new year. And so with that, the first step is just choosing your word of the year. And so really going with what your gut and inner voice is calling for, right? So don't overthink this. The whole point of this process is to also start to tap into your inner voice. So don't overthink it. Just like whatever comes to you, your gut knows what you need to cultivate more of or to focus on this upcoming year. And so go with that. You can always change it later if you need to. That's not a big deal. But go with that because your inner voice knows. You have an inner wisdom within you, and she knows what you need. And so trust that. Just trust that. And I know that's easier said than done, but this is a practice. And so this is an opportunity to just practice that. Yeah. And so the word of the year, similar to like in the example that I gave a few years ago where my word was align, it's something that you can continue to focus on and cultivate throughout the year. And then I guide you through a visioning process, right? So the next step is just daydream. Just pretend that you're a child again and just daydream. Let your imagination go wild. What do you want to do or experience this upcoming year? And don't think about the how of like how practical it is or how you're going to bring that into fruition. You just dream big, just let your imagination go wild and, vision, like what are all the things that you would want to do or experience or people you want to meet or what you want to achieve this upcoming year, right? And just jot it all down. But then you don't stop there, right? So now who do you want to become? Like there's a reason that you want to do all of those things, right? And generally it's because you want to feel a certain way or you want to like who do you want to become through that process like at the core, right? So the next steps to kind of get to that point is to chunk those dreams, those goals down into categories. For example, you might find that a number of the things that you wrote down have to do with your physical health or maintaining your body. So chunk those down together, like kind of group those together. You might find that a number of the things that you have listed have to do with your family or your intimate relationship or your career. So chunk those all down together into groups that make sense to you. And then look at each of those categories one by one and think about your why. Like, what's your why? Why do you want to do those things, experience those things, achieve those things, right? What is your why behind that, right? And then from there, we take it one step further. You transform your why into an affirmation of who you want to become through this process, right? So continually taking this a step further to that affirmation of who you want to become through this process, right? So now the focus is no longer on those specific goals. Those specific goals just become a menu of options for how you can become who you want to become this upcoming year. Does that make sense? And so the way I do this each year, and honestly, I do this as a very detailed process every year, right around my birthday, kind of between my birthday and New Year's. And then I also repeat this process, slightly abbreviated version, but almost just as detailed every quarter. So I'm continually looking at this. And what I do is once I have this and I've gone through the whole process, I write down my word of the year, what my word of the year means to me, right? Because the same word can mean something different to different people, right? So what does it actually mean to you, right? To cultivate more of whatever the word of the year you choose, right? So I write down the word of the year, I write down what it means to me. And then I write down the affirmation like in bold, right? And then for each category, the affirmation in bold, underneath that, I write down my why statement. And beneath that, I have the list of all of those, tangible goals or dreams or visions underneath that category. So that what happens is what sticks out loud and clear when I look at this sheet of paper and I continually look at it, okay? So it's not just that I do the process and I just put it away and forget about it. I actually continually look at it to remind myself who is it that I want to become this year? What is it that I want to do? Right. But again, more importantly than what is it that I want to do, it's who do I want to become? Right. And so every time I look at this paper, in bold is the affirmation, I am such and such and such, right? What is that affirmation? Starting with I am statements, right? And and then I can look at the list of options. The list of options, that's just like a menu, right? That can change. You can add to it, you can take things out. It doesn't even matter if you achieve all those things. What matters is who you are becoming through the process. Are you living in alignment with your values? Are you living in alignment with your highest self? Are you living in alignment with your inner wisdom, your inner guidance system, your inner voice? Are you honoring her throughout your journey? Right? And that's why it's important to continue to remind yourself of it, to continue to look at that sheet of paper or that Google Doc throughout the year, because challenges will come. Challenges will come for sure, because that's just the nature of life, right? But through those challenges, can you continue to live in alignment? Can you respond to those challenges instead of react to them? Can you respond to them with intention? Yeah. So that's what this process is all about. And like I said, I have not seen a single other New Year's visioning process like this. So this is truly, truly unique. This is truly something that I created out of my own need. I shared with you the story of how this developed and how I created this. And so if you want to dive even deeper into this process, you can access the workshop where I guide you through it step by step, as well as a workbook, right? Where you can just print it out, sit down, go through it step by step. Or you can type it up. It's a Google Doc, and where you can go through this process for yourself. And so I will include the link for that in the show notes below. And if you download the workbook before the end of the year, right? For you who's kind of getting an early start on this, I definitely want to reward you on that. And so for anyone who downloads this workbook before the end of the year, well, first of all, you're going to get a discount on the workbook. And also, I want to give you a one-on-one call with me where we can review your workbook together, completely complimentary. My gift to you, my end of the year, New Year's gift to you, and specifically for downloading it before the end of the year and getting an early start on that of an intentional new year. So take advantage of that. Check out the link in the show notes below. Download it today. Schedule your call with me, and let's do this. Let's do it together. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Essential Self-Care Podcast. If you like what you heard, be sure to subscribe, leave a positive review, and share this episode with someone you know. And remember, your free guide, 6 simple yet powerful steps to create your radiant life, is waiting for you at radiantlivinginstitute.com. Download it today.